Hello, Andrew here again, and this is episode 213, and we are coming to the end. We are very close to the close of Matthew's Gospel, and today we're continuing in the post-resurrection phase immediately after the resurrection. So we're picking up the narrative at Matthew chapter 28 verses 11 to 15. While they were going, that is the women who had just left the tomb, who'd encountered the risen Christ, while they were going, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priests everything that had happened. After the priests had assembled with the elders, they devised a plan to give a large sum of money to the soldiers, telling them, "You must say, 'His disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep.' If this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So they took the money and did as they were directed. And this story is told among the Jews to this day. So, we've considered Matthew's accounts of witnesses to the resurrection over the past couple of episodes. We've considered the reaction of the women. We mused briefly on the fact that there was an earthquake, according to Matthew, that an angel came down, rolled back the stone in front of the tomb, and sat on it. We noted that all three other Gospels record that the woman came after the stone had been rolled back and didn't actually see it happen. So, how do we know it happened as Matthew says it did? I want to suggest that we know that because there were eyewitnesses. A lot of them. The guards. They saw it all. The passage we're considering today starts with, while the women were going to see the disciples, some of the guards went into the city and told the chief priests everything that had happened. Some of the guard. Clearly, there are actually quite a lot of them. I would put the number going to see the religious leaders at least 4. One is 1. A couple is 2. A few is 3. Some is therefore 4 or more. That's my kind of hunch about it. Some is also less than the whole. It would suggest that the majority of the guards didn't go to see the religious leaders. They went elsewhere. Only some of them did. And all the translations I look at use the same way of translating the word some. This makes sense. They were clearly terrified by what they'd seen and would have wanted to get as far away from it as they could, and certainly not talk to the authorities about it. I've read it suggested that the temple guard was more like a militia, not properly trained full-time soldiers like the Roman army. It was this guard that was dispatched to guard the tomb, not by Pilate, the Roman governor, but by the chief priests. They simply asked the Roman governor permission to post the guard, which they did. They probably weren't uniformed, or not fully anyway. They may have had some sort of insignia they wore. They may have just slunk away home. Some of them still in a state of shock. Others perhaps now open to the possibility of Jesus being who and what he said he was. These are all first-hand witnesses. And some of them, you'd have to suggest, probably pretty hostile, therefore making their testimony all the more valid. The fact that they were affected differently than the woman would be more easily explained if they hadn't seen it all, if the woman hadn't seen it all, but if the guards had. In the last episode, I think it was the last episode, I mentioned a word that comes into our English lexicon through Richard Adams, the author of Watership Down, which is probably my favourite novel. I'm actually at the moment almost finishing reading it again. We're all familiar with the expression being caught like a rabbit in the headlights. Tharn gives us a title, a label, a new word. Adams gives it one. And he calls the word tharn. Tharn is when a rabbit becomes so frozen by fear that they're completely immobilized. even to the point of death. They could be picked up by an enemy without responding in any way. Human beings can get into this state as well. I suggest that we have such a case here. The humans, the guards, are all faan, terrified and unable to move. So they see everything, mentally record everything, and are effectively paralysed. These, I'm wanting to suggest, are the witnesses. It may be that some, perhaps one or two, checked the tomb once the angel had gone, and they'd recovered and discovered it to be empty. Or they simply listened to the conversation between the angel and the women and were convinced enough on the basis of what they'd just witnessed and experienced to believe that the tomb was in fact empty. This also explains the necessity for a bribe to get them to tell a lie. They knew what they'd seen and experienced. They knew that Jesus was gone and the disciples had not stolen him away. They knew that a notable miracle had occurred, something that they could not explain in the natural way. And the religious leaders found their message very unwelcome and were prepared to pay a large sum to get an alternative narrative, some fake news, out there. They did not want Pilate interviewing these soldiers, as they recognized the strong possibility that Pilate might actually believe them. They could not afford for that to happen. So, among the first followers of Jesus, there may have been some of the guards that were there ensuring that Jesus stays dead. Yet the truth was going out. Was this how it happened? Well, it could be. God bless you.